The sun was setting low over the endless prairie, its golden light spilling across the rolling fields of tall yellow grass, and the only sound was the soft creak of leather as Thomas Hale, the weathered rancher who had worked these lands for more than 40 years, guided his horse slowly toward home after a long day of mending fences and hauling water, his mind heavy with thoughts of the loneliness that had settled into his life since his wife's passing. When suddenly he spotted a strange figure stumbling near the edge of the fence line, clutching something bulky and wrapped in rough burlap cloth, the sight so unusual that he dismounted at once and approached carefully, boots crunching against dry earth. And as he drew closer, he saw that it was a young woman, her face streaked with dirt and tears, her clothes torn as if she had traveled through briars and thorns, and her arms clutched tightly around a heavy sack as though her very life depended on it. And when Thomas asked if she was all right, her voice came out cracked and trembling. "Please, take them off," she begged, her eyes darting to the sack she carried. "Please, you have to see for yourself." And though the rancher's instincts told him to be cautious, there was something in her tone that cut past his suspicion and spoke directly to the old well of compassion inside him. The same compassion that had once made him a father, a husband, a protector. And so, with hands rough from decades of work, but gentle in their intent, he loosened the coarse rope tied around the mouth of the sack, pulled back the folds of burlap, and when the contents spilled into view, his whole body stiffened and his breath caught in his throat. For inside was not gold or food or tools as he had imagined, but something far more shocking. 3 tiny infants, swaddled in filthy rags, their faces smudged with dust but their eyes alive. Fragile breaths rising and falling in rhythm with the desperate silence of the evening. And Thomas staggered back as if the earth itself had shifted beneath him, whispering hoarsely, "Good Lord," because he had not expected to see life staring back at him from the darkness of a sack carried through the wilderness. And as the realization settled over him, his hands began to shake uncontrollably, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility that suddenly landed upon him like a storm, because in those tiny faces he saw not only the cruelty of whoever had abandoned them, but also the flicker of hope that someone, perhaps him, was meant to protect them. And the woman, falling to her knees, sobbed into the dirt, saying she had found them near the river where raiders had left them to die, and she had carried them as far as her strength would allow, but could go no further alone. And Thomas knelt beside her, torn between shock and a sense of duty that had been buried beneath grief for years. And though his mind screamed that he was too old, too tired, too broken to raise children again, his heart answered louder, reminding him that sometimes God places burdens upon the weary, because only the weary know the true value of life. And so he wrapped the sack back around the infants with trembling care and lifted it against his chest, the weight both terrifying and sacred. And in that moment he knew his life was about to change forever, for better or worse. And as the prairie wine swirled around them, he whispered to the woman, "We'll take them home."